Welcome to the Coat Brainiac Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Jason Phillips here. And Jason, I'd just like to first start by being extremely honest with anybody listening into this podcast. And we were just talking about this. Other than like a 30-second interaction at the PCA this year, this is the first time I've had the pleasure of having a formal conversation with you. So thank you for being here today.
Hey, I'm excited to be here, Austin. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah. So one thing you may not know about me is I've been following you online for a while now, and I'm your biggest fan. So I believe we align on a number of different topics that I preach to not only my team, but also our clients about mindset, culture, and how you build and lead a team. And I would really love to touch on some of those points today. But before we get too far into that, let's paint the picture. Who is Jason Phillips? Tell us your story.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a disciple of Jesus. That's where everything good in me comes from, and that's what I'm trying to shine the light and help as many people as I can. And my wife and we've been married for almost 29 years. Actually, we're going to Hawaii next month to celebrate, and we have 5 beautiful children and 2 sons-in-law. And so our youngest is a senior. About to be a senior here next week, or starting school, and I've got my home improvement company. We're in this 26 years now. It's a lot of fun, but I personally spend most of my time these days helping contractors, working with my leadership team, and just trying to bring value back to the community. Because when I started, I didn't have all the connectivity and resources, and honestly, I had to learn everything the hard way, and I paid the dumb tax. And I don't think people should have to pay the dumb tax. And I think one of the things that I need to do and others need to do that have paid the dumb tax is help others along.
That's right. Watch out for those roadblocks, those bumps in the road. I personally invest an entire salary into business coaching and life coaching and business development, leadership courses. I think it's so important. You know, the dumb tax, it's extremely true. If you can have somebody point you in the right direction and say, hey, watch out for that roadblock, it's going to hurt you. Just to be able to sidestep that and put yourself that far ahead of the game, it's a game changer.
100%. 100%.
So something that I heard on your podcast, I know you're really early in that. I do want to touch on this, but you're a certified human behaviorist or certified human behavior consultant.
Correct.
What is that?
Okay. Basically, it means I have a certification in DISC personality styles. So I have a certification and an advanced certification. I'm also certified in motivators, which is another one. But when I learned about DISC early on, it changed my leadership. It changed my relationships at home. It changed my relationships at work. And every relationship, I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. I want to invest more into this because this is important. As a matter of fact, our one of my key leaders, my HR manager, she went and got the first certification with me as well. And it's a game changer when it comes to people skills and putting the right people on your team and having difficult conversations and getting along and adapting with other people. If you really want to build a great organization, you're going to have to embrace soft skills, which, hey, we're contractors. We don't want that. But at the end of the day, we're in the people business. Our customers, our employees, our vendors, they're all people. And we can either have an attitude of, well, that's just the kind of leader or manager I am, and I'm going to be the strong arm, or we can learn how to get along with people for more interactions that have a positive outcome.
Totally. And it's interesting. We had a group call with our team today, and I always start out the call by talking about boring leadership stuff, and they always have the fun and games at the end of the call. But I started the call by asking our team what the difference between a boss and a coach is. They're both leaders, but they're very different styles and have very different methodologies. I'm curious, what is your take on that?
Well, you think about the meme we constantly see on the internet is that the boss is the guy basically on the sled or the chariot behind, and the slaves are there in front pulling him along, and he's cracking the whip.
Mm-hmm.
And the coach is the guy that's encouraging. But sometimes we want to say cheerleader, and we should be everybody's cheerleader. But a coach plays the role of a cheerleader, but a coach also speaks the truth when it hurts. Okay, it's important to speak the truth, and it's kind of like, training is pouring into someone, and coaching is drawing out their greatness that's in them. And so being a coach is not about trying to let's just get organizational results. It comes down to, well, here's the way I say it. We need to build the people, and our people will build the business. It's about building people. That's what it really is about.
1000%. I couldn't agree more. And actually, I want to jump back to a point. You had brought up DISC assessments. Now, I'm a very big guy whenever it comes to analytics and identifying people within our company based on a number in some capacity. We run our business on EOS. I'm sure you have some sort of a system that you run your company on. And part of EOS is identifying right people, right seats. There might be an awesome person you have employed, but they might not just be sitting in the right seat. And part of that is using personality tests and these DISC assessments and Colby assessments. What is your take on that? How much of an impact does that have on your hiring process and your vetting process and where you position people within your company?
That's a great question, Austin. So these days, we don't hire anybody without at least a DISC assessment, because we know the roles we have in our company. We know the personality styles that are more than likely to succeed in those, and we want to put the right people, as you said, in a position in which the intrinsic rewards of what that position offers match with what they really want. Their pace, their priority, and are they more of a task-based person? Are they more of a people person? What does this role need? In my accounting department, that's much different, or in everybody's accounting department, that's gonna be much different than what a sales position looks like. Are they more fast-paced, or are they slower-paced? A lot of us entrepreneurs, we're very fast-paced, risk takers, go-getters, right? But generally speaking, those type of people are also not really good on reading the fine print and the details.
That's right.
Okay, and we need those people on our team. Unfortunately, we tend to begin building our company with people that are like us. So we end up building a company that has our same strengths and our same weaknesses. Could you imagine a football team where every person on the team is a wide receiver? That'd be a terrible team. You wouldn't win any championships.
Exactly.
So we need to, one, understand the temperaments, the personality styles, and the skill set needed for each position on our bus, on our team, in our company. We as leaders need to be able to adapt our communication style and drop into their world and communicate with them on a level that hits home with them. And the onus is on us as the leaders to do this. And I hate it when I hear someone say, well, that's the kind of manager I am. If they don't like it, they can leave. Okay, guess what? You're gonna be constantly having turnover. You're never gonna solve your problems.
Totally.
And so if we can adapt our communication style, we can build a solid team, a foundation of trust. And I move very fast. I have some people on my team, they move fast. I have some people on my team, they move slow. Guess what? Sometimes it frustrates me that they move slower, and it frustrates them that I move fast. But we need each other. We absolutely need each other, or else we're going to be blindsided.
Definitely. And you are not the first person in recent memory that has brought up describing running your business with a team and comparing that to a football team. One of my business coaches brought up the concept of when you're small, when you're just getting started out, you're going to have people wearing multiple hats. And if you think about it, when you're starting out playing football in elementary school, you're playing both offense and defense, right? As you get up to that elementary school, middle school, high school level, you start getting specialized roles. You get into college, you have guys who will only go out there for one play the entire game. Think of like special teams. And then NFL, you're even more specialized. So your team grows and changes and adapts as you grow. And I think it's important that we all understand as you grow, that team may change. The people that get you from, let's say, 0 to 500K annually may not be the same team to get you to 2.5 to 3 million. But it's also identifying those people that you can take along with you and that are those A players. Going back to the DISC assessment in particular, because this is a question that I have proposed a number of different times to a number of other people. How much weight do you put on those tests? Because I think as a new business owner who may not be, let's say, doing these personality tests on your team, which anybody listening to this podcast should immediately go do a DISC assessment for everybody on their team, get to know and understand what position requires different skill sets, and then build their team on top of that. But how much weight should we put on that? And how much of it is just a relative score, knowing how people work well with each other and that kind of stuff?
Let's talk about for a moment cognitive dissonance. Let's say that you consider yourself an honest person and you're working a job and your boss hints at or directly tells you that you maybe need to lie on a tax form. You don't want to lose your job. You're an honest person. You've got bills to pay. So you kind of comply and it begins eating at you. There's this tension between who you know you are and what you're being asked to do and kind of in a way almost forced to do, coerced to do. And that's called cognitive dissonance. Well, on a similar level, although not a moral issue, when we put a person in the wrong role, it creates the same type of tension within. And I'll give you an example. When we set appointments, one of the things that we do is we ask for the opportunity to meet with both homeowners if there's multiple homeowners. And if we can get the commitment on the call, our salesperson, when they go to the knock on the door, they see that I'm supposed to be meeting with John and Mary. Let's just say that we knock on the door. Hi, Austin. Hey, Austin, I'm Jason with Phillips Home Improvements. Thank you for inviting me out to your home today. My paperwork here says I'm supposed to be meeting with you and Mary. Is she available? If you don't have on the DISC assessment a D that's a good bit above the midline, you will not ask that question. It will create such a tension. Let's even make it worse. Let's say it's Mary. Hi, Mary. My paperwork says I'm supposed to meet with you in Austin. Can you go get your husband, the real decision maker? That's what we think we're trying to say, right? Okay. But that's a real world example. And what happens is I hear other business owners, oh, my sales guy, he's not, man, he's a great guy. He's not closing any sales. And I just start asking them questions about what he does, who he is. And I can just see it's a glaring. You've got the wrong person in that role. You've got the wrong person in that role. Now, if some of the listeners are in commercial, like B2B sales, the profile is completely different than if you are in direct-to-consumer, in-home short cycle sales. Okay, so there's other areas like that. Let's just say you take someone who needs new experiences and they get bored easy, and you stick them in the accounting office.
They're not going to be there long.
They're going to scratch their eyes out. And I made this mistake countless times by taking a good person and putting them in a role. Maybe this was a person I even knew. We were maybe friends or relatives or whatever. And I know whoever's out there listening, I'm speaking to you because you're in this spot. There's some of you guys in this spot right now. And they're in this spot and all of a sudden they're not moving as fast as they need to for that role. Or they're missing the details. They're not following up. They're not doing some of those difficult things that the position needs. Their performance in the role is floundering. Now we're starting to be frustrated as an owner, and then either the situation festers long enough till we blow up and fire them, or they get disillusioned and they quit. And if it was a friend or family member, now you got a broken relationship in addition to. If it's not a friend or family member, guess what? Both people lose. Both people lose. That person has to go try to find another job, and maybe you just missed your spring opportunity to capture that wave of business that comes in a season, and you're set back for an entire year. Now you tell me, how much emphasis should we put on personality assessments after hearing that?
So, I mean, look, I have been wrong a number of times when I ignored red flags, where we brought somebody on. I'm like, you know what? Their quick start on our Colby assessment is way too high for this role, but I think we can make it work. And you get 30, 60 days into that, and then you got to let them go because they're not the right person for that seat. Now, those who are even contemplating using DISC assessments or Colby assessments or any other type of personality test out there, I think it's important that they understand that there is kind of a profile for each seat in your company to what you're looking for. Now, on the DISC assessment, I'm a very high D and I. I'm curious, Jason, what are you?
A DI.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty common with business owners to be very extroverted, very independent, and, very focused and driven, right? I was told that based on my assessment that I'm very impatient, and my wife would definitely agree with that statement. On my Colby assessment, it's interesting. I am very high fact finder and follow through. Typical business owners are the visionary, right? And they're really high as far as the quick start goes. I didn't have a high quick start. So I hired an operations manager who does. and he has a very low follow through, but I complement that. So I think the other side of that coin is understanding that just because somebody doesn't fit a role, if their management style, the person who's overseeing them and leading them is different, there might still be a fit there, right? It's all about relative scores and complementing each other at the end of the day. Would you agree with that?
It makes me think of a conversation I had with a business owner recently. He's like, I don't think I've got the right personality to be an entrepreneur. And because he didn't see himself as that, and I speak the language of DISC. Okay, that's the one I chose to settle on. So, which I've done Colby and such. I'll tell you in a minute if you care to know why I prefer DISC.
Definitely.
But it kind of broke my heart to hear him say this. He's like, I'm not the DI or the DC. He was more of an SC personality. Okay, if you intend on being a solopreneur for all of your life, okay, maybe you do need more of that. I can conquer the world. But if you really want to build a team, you have to get along with people. And those S's are great people. The C's are great with process and detail. You might be, well, I'm jealous. I'm not a DI. Well, guess what? Here's what the DIs are really good at. They're good at taking risk, and they're good at launching. You know what they're not good at? Improving. They're
Definitely
not good at polishing. Okay. So if you, let's say you are that person that's good at polishing, guess what? Outsource your weakness. One of the common traits of all high performers is they have a high level of self-awareness. And when you start getting a self-awareness and understand personalities, whether you use the Colby or the DISC or whichever one you want to choose, once you start using these, just get a system and stick with it. That's what I would suggest. Then you can see what the missing pieces in your life and your business are, and to fill those roles. You know, you may be like, speaking to painters, here's the common question that I get all the time. Hey, Jason, I need to hire someone, but I don't know if I should hire a salesperson or if I should hire a project manager. Which one should I hire? Well, the only way to really find the right answer is to figure out, well, if you could give up one of those and spend more of your time on the other, which one would you give up? Which one would you prefer to spend more time on? Well, I like running the projects and the back end of things. Okay, great. Then let's find you a salesperson, or vice versa. So at least you know what to hire. And then ultimately you want to end up hiring both, right? And continue the process of specialization of your role, and then of each and every person. Like, go from the bigger your company gets, the less hats each person needs to wear. And that's specialization is what we call that.
Definitely.
And so the more you can specialize, then instead of be a generalist, and I right here, I guess you can't see it. I have a huge Swiss Army knife. It's from a store display, a Swiss Army knife. And as business owners, when we start our business, we're a Swiss Army knife. We need to be the scalpel, the cleaver. We need to be all of those different knives, so to say, working all these jobs. Well, ultimately, when we grow and grow and grow, we need a dedicated meat cleaver. We need a dedicated scalpel. We might need a dedicated axe. And knowing what you need and begin to specialize. Start with self-awareness and know what you need to hire in that role. Don't hire someone that's just like you, someone you like to hang out, someone you have a good feeling about. Put some data to your decisions. And personality assessments, really, they're not the cure-all, but they are a huge piece of a puzzle. We call them people puzzles. How you all fit together, and it can reduce greatly your turnover and improve greatly the success in those roles. And let's not even start talking about one of the, if not the greatest waste of money in your company, which is ineffective payroll dollars.
Preach. So yeah, let's actually, I want to go back. Explain to me, because this is honestly a question that I don't have the answer to. Why do you prefer the DISC assessment over the Colby? What are the pros and cons of each?
The main thing that I loved about DISC. Okay, one, DISC is also the most widespread. Everybody used to be on the Myers-Briggs. It's really outdated. And there's a lot of things that are better and more accurate than the Myers-Briggs. But here's what I love about the DISC. It's easy to learn, it's visual, and it's easy for me to teach it and for my team to quickly grasp it. It's great if I can learn and be an expert on all of these different things, but the real magic happens when my team embraces it and understands who they are and who their coworkers are.
So
And
powerful.
it's so easy. You can look at someone's graph. Hey, show me their graph. Oh, I know exactly. I know exactly their tendencies from that. My whole company speaks the language of DISC. And hey, can I see so-and-so's? I'm having a conflict with so-and-so. Can I look at their DISC profile? Can I compare our two? They ask our HR manager that. And so she'll sit down and even coach them on it.
It's amazing because a lot of people don't understand that just because you understand it and you can put people in the right seats, perhaps if your team's not on board, if they're not buying in, then that knowledge dies with you. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of goes back to the simple process or the simple mindset of simple scales. And the simpler you can keep things, the easier it is to teach. You can teach, coach, then you can lead, and they teach other leaders on how to hire and lead. I think your whole concept, and I know mine is freeing up time and creating more freedom. And I think that's where a lot of this process-oriented hiring comes into place.
Absolutely. And I'm not even the one placing people anymore.
So good.
My Jennifer, my HR manager, she's involved with Women in Paint. She was at the PCA with me. Matter of fact, she's going to be actually doing some teaching at our Contractor Freedom Summit that's coming up. She's so inspirational, but she's such a good teacher on laying out the concepts of DISC and how they work in the real world, in the office environment, and even in relationships. So I don't want to be in that loop. I want my company to thrive without me being the linchpin. I don't have this pride. Okay, in the early days, I wanted to be the best, the smartest guy, the most hardest working guy. I wanted to be that. And guess what? DIs, that's what they want. I'm like, wait, if I'm ever going to, I need to let their greatness shine. And I began to change my mindset from, it's not me winning. My real win is when I see them win, when I see them grow.
So
that's
good.
the true satisfaction. And so now I've got these amazing leaders around me, and sometimes I just sit there in awe and I just shut my mouth and I just watch them counsel and help.
That is like the most life-changing moment was in my company when I was able to delegate HR and I stepped back. We hired 24 people this year. Hiring 24 people, it's only August. That's a lot of people to hire. I use the traffic light system whenever I'm trying to figure out what I need to delegate next, who I need to hire next. And if it's a task I don't like doing, it's red. If it's a task I don't mind doing, I don't do it often, it's yellow. If I like doing it, it's green. I want to focus more on the green each day. The red, I'm going to find how to delegate and who to hire for that position as soon as possible. HR is something that I think a lot of companies undervalue how important that position is. The ability to train somebody on how to build your team. And actually, let's pivot a moment because I think you have an interesting concept that I'd like to touch on. That is teamily. Now, as I understand it, this is a phrase you use, and it's kind of like the core of your company culture. But let's talk about teamily. Explain that to me.
Okay, we basically took two words, team and family, and we crunched them together and made this corny word called teamily. It has deep meaning at our company. You think of a team practices together, they sweat together, they put the right players on the field at the right time for the right play to win the game, not to give someone glory. They put the right people to win. They you know what? They also have the locker room at halftime when things aren't going right. Okay, so they're honest. Sometimes they're brutal with one another, but they're fighting together to win. And then families love each other. They spend time together. They have each other's back, and we put those together. And that is, I'd like to say that culture is an invisible force, either building your company or eroding it. And trust me, I have had a toxic culture at my company before. And it's one of the reasons that I completely scraped my company almost down to, let's just say I cut my volume in half by more than 50% within 18 months. To rebuild a foundation of trust as I grew as a leader, bring in people, leaders that want to grow, growth mindset people. And now, today, just like, I don't know, I guess it was technically, was it 2019 or 2020 or 2021? No, I think it was 2022. My team literally was recognized as one of the best places to work for small business in North Texas. And just a few years earlier, I'm like, man, we've got a toxic culture. Everybody's out for themselves. It's cover your butt, all of that stuff. And now we've got people that are that are giving up. I mean, literally during COVID, everybody's laying off stuff and laying off people. And I had my leaders come to me and they said, Jason, if we can keep some of these people, we'll take a pay cut. Think about that.
It's amazing.
Personally giving up. And they did it. And we all did. And for a period of time. And then we came back, we retained our people, we came back with a bang. And thankfully, I was able to repay them everything they gave up. But it was my team that did that, okay? And instead of everybody, you would, the tendency might be, oh, I'm going to protect what's mine. I'm going to keep my job, things like that. So Teamily really is a powerful force, and that's another thing we're gonna be talking about at the summit, because I think there's others that may want to adopt Teamily, and I want to show them how to adopt that into their culture. It's easy to measure, Austin. It's easy to measure certain KPIs like dollars collected, contracted sales. Okay, it's a little more difficult to measure things like teamwork. Do people feel good about coming to work? Do they feel like they have a good relationship with their manager? Those type of things are, it might seem touchy-feely, but those are huge predictors of success of your company. So finding a way to measure those and improve those is a key. And too many times I talk to so many owners and they're like, oh man, I should have thought about leadership before. I should have thought about culture before. I've got this toxic problem or I've got all these people problems. You grow your business, then you end up with people problems.
Exactly.
And you're right there in contractor prison. Your contractor prison is when you don't have the time, money, or freedom to live your life with purpose beyond just running your business. And you're working 6-7 days a week, you're working late hours, you're the fireman, constantly answering every phone call, fixing every problem, every breakdown. You want to take your phone and throw it in the lake. Your wife or your husband's ready to stab you, they're ready to leave you because you're working all the time, you can't have any private time, you're missing your kids' soccer games and birthday parties, you're not having dinners with them. That's the stuff, that's the kind of stuff that happens. We realize that too late. And then we're like in this big, huge problem. And it's so much easier to correct problems when they're tiny. One of the things that I want to do is people that are in contractor prison, I want to bring them a message of hope and freedom. Hey, here's how I got out, and here's how you can get out. And then, okay, you're not in contractor prison. Here's some things that you need to make time for in your schedule now that's going to make your future bigger and better.
Amazing. And, I really want to just emphasize how important that every one of those points you mentioned, working late, missing birthdays, giving up time with your family and friends. Everybody that's listening to this podcast has probably been through that if you're a business owner. That contractor prison, job prison, if you own a job, that's all you own is a job. You don't actually own people and processes. And that's really what's going to give you the freedom you're looking for. And I definitely want to touch on your Contractor Freedom Summit coming up here. What I would like to do, though, is dive more into the team building side, because this is something that as a business owner, as a company that was scaling very fast this year, I completely underestimated two things. And that's how to build a company culture, especially in our case, some of our team doesn't live here in Wilmington, North Carolina. So building company culture on a remote team can be challenging. And we've since overcome some of those challenges, but I identified that way too late, unfortunately, where I didn't realize how much work our team was putting in. And at the end of the day, their mental health scores were 5s and 6s. Right. We keep track of all of our team's mental health scores on a daily and weekly basis. It's really important to us. The second, though, was hiring and how to go about hiring the right people for that Teamily. Jason, what does your hiring process look like? How do you hire those A players? How do you weed out the 99% of unqualified applicants for a particular role?
Well, we definitely follow a process in our hiring. Jennifer does all of the hiring. Mm-hmm. And so we source the candidates. She has, here's how I'm going to do my initial screen. Here's my next screen. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, she wants to spend a lot of time speaking with them and uncover, what are their aspirations. She wants to learn about, not just learn about their history and their, it comes down to, can they do the job? Will they do the job? And do they fit within your organization? Ultimately, there's some things you're just not going to know until after you've worked with them a little bit. And we We want to increase the odds that we're getting the right person. And when you're scaling fast, hiring a lot of people, wow, it's really exponentially hard to not just to get them hired, but to make sure that they really become integrated into your culture and know, hey, this is the way we act here. This is the way we don't act here. And so you've got to have teammates that can model that behavior and call out the bad behavior. And it can't just be the coach or the business owner modeling and correcting. You've got to have people, optimally, every single person on your company team would be modeling and calling out people and teaching people, hey, here's how we act here. This is how we act here. And but as far as the hiring, one of our favorite books is The Ideal Team Player by Pat Lencioni. And one of the things he speaks of in there is, are they humble, hungry, smart? Okay, so we look, are they hungry, humble, smart? And smart doesn't mean smart IQ, it means smart with people.
Yeah.
Okay, it means smart with people. What's their personality style? And then we also look at compare against our core values. And our core values are faith, people, teamwork, and the pursuit of excellence.
Love
and
it.
we want to say, can we give them a check mark in this area? So we have a whole thing. She fills it out. It takes a lot of time. We don't just hire a warm body. I'm not saying we don't hire quickly. We want to be thorough, because it's not just how much did we pay to source and background check and to get this person hired. That's if that's not enough between the time and money that it takes to get someone. But if you hire the wrong person and you get 30 days down the road and you have to start over, again, you may have just missed your big spring opportunity. If at the very least you're set back by 30 plus days, probably more than that, 'cause now you've got to go find another candidate, which could take 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
Easy.
whatever.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So it's worth it having someone that is not hiring by feeling, but they're hiring with a system, a methodology, and someone in your company. Eventually, you may not be, if you're just a couple people, or you're a solopreneur with some helpers out in the field, you may not be at this. But I want you to think, this is the vision of what I need to work toward. I need someone that can spend significant time vetting candidates according to what's gonna thrive. Will they fit our company? There's a difference between can you do the job and will you do the job? And a lot of that is there's things in, let's think about your life. What are the things in your life or your job that you tend to procrastinate on versus the things that you are never late on because you love doing those? The things you procrastinate on are less likely to get done. They're just less likely to get done. And we don't want to hire people that I can do certain things. Let's just say take out the trash, whatever it is, or clean the closet. There's something at home. Well, do I like having a clean closet? Yeah. Do I want to take the time to straighten it up and clean it up? No. Maybe I procrastinate that. That's just an anecdotal example. But you've got to have people in your business that love order, if that's what you want is organized. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. And I think, one thing I wanted to touch on that you brought up is how you evaluate those for the people that you're looking to bring on. So you mentioned your core values. We have a set of 5 core values. The first one being people first. And that's there for a reason, right? Or some other about being the 20%, extreme ownership, all that kind of stuff. But core values, if you're listening to this podcast and you don't have core values established and you have more than 1 or 2 employees, you need to go get that sorted out. Everybody always asks, how do you start your core values? Like, where do you begin? Your company will tell you what your core values need to be, right? Based on you as the leader. Your business is simply a reflection of you. Those core values are so important, though. The other aspect is like what questions you ask yourself to determine if that person's going to be a good fit. So for us, like I said, we follow EOS, and they have a get it, want it, capacity to do it mindset. And as long as those 3 things are checked, that person's going to be a pretty good spot for that role. If they don't get it, you can train them. If they don't have the capacity, you can hire or implement new processes. But the most important one out of that is the want it. If they don't want that job, there's no amount of training or resources you can put in place to make sure that person is going to be happy. So that's our methodology. You have obviously can they do it? Will they do it? And are they going to be a good fit? I thought that was a very interesting take on that as well. Jason, one thing I wanted to do here is pivot over to the leadership side of this, because we can build a team. We can have the processes in place to hire that team, build a family, right? But so much about having a team is also about how to lead that team. Outside of the typical things about having a plan, being courageous, having good communication and follow through skills. I believe there are a few personality traits that separate the good leaders from the great. For me, those include things like being disciplined, being empathetic. I think is a big one that's very undervalued. Being accountable and also confident. So like believing in yourself. I'm curious, what is your take on that? What leadership traits do you look for to hire for your team?
Well, I love the ones you mentioned. Let's just start there. Those are great. A skill that most leaders, again, let's look at your typical business owner, a DI, fast-paced, terrible listener. When their people are speaking, all they're doing is formulating what they need to say as soon as that other person takes a breath. Your people need their voices to be heard, and even more important, they need to feel like their voices are heard. Doesn't mean you have to do what they say, but they need to know that what they have to say was put into the pool of knowledge and you considered it, right or wrong. So real listening, not fake listening, empathetic listening, whatever you want to call it, really listening, seeking to understand what they have to say. Because guess what? As a business owner, you don't know everything in your business. You think you do, but your employees know things about your business that you don't know.
It's scary.
And they can see things about you as a leader that you can't see. Now, let me give you another example. For instance, a lot of leaders, they want to make people feel good, and they overpromise. Oh, yeah. We're going to have lunch. We're going to do this. I'm going to follow up here. We're going to get your incentive plan. We're going to review your pay. Any of those type of things, and they go undone, and your people become disillusioned. And I've even seen environments where a well-intentioned leader that people love continually drops the ball on things, and their people start making excuses and workarounds within the business to cover for the owner's weaknesses. And hey, they love that owner, and they'll cover for them, but eventually they're gonna become disillusioned. And so as a leader, we don't just need to be, trust is a matter of the heart, okay? Then there's credibility. Credibility means that what you say you do, you're going to do. You're going to show up, you're going to do it, you're going to follow through. People can love you and trust you on one level, but not on another level. You can be credible and they can not like you, okay? That happens. And again, your job is not to be liked. If you can build with trust and credibility as a leader, and let's throw in their empathy, okay? And of course, a quick decision maker. A lot of leaders are slow to make decisions, especially when it comes to, so many leaders are just big-hearted people, but they're also busy. And I remember one time I eventually fired a person that needed to be fired. And I had a bunch of people come and say, wow, thank you. Why didn't you do that sooner? Why didn't you do that sooner? And they're just, your people see things before you see it. And you're trying to believe the best for this person, all while a toxic person, whatever it is, and you're trying to believe that they're going to pick up the pace all the while all of your team, it's taking a toll on the rest of your team because they're having to cover for this person who's not carrying their load. And again, those are all culture killers.
Couldn't agree more. And I think the slow decision making, I want to just revisit that because we had that issue within our company and we created an entire core value around it. Take action. So when we look at taking action, it's about identifying the problem, coming up with a solution, and understanding that, time is a commodity. So if we're going to fail, let's fail quick. Let's fail with a plan, but we need to go. There's not enough time in the world for analysis paralysis. And that was something that I had to overcome. I used to have this perfectionist mindset. Like everything has to be perfect. We have to roll it out right the first time. That's not how things are built. It's not how things go in the real world. And it took me a while to overcome that mindset for sure. I want to revisit being disciplined because this is another one that was a game changer for me, was my daily habits and what I do from 4:30 in the morning when my alarm goes off until 8 o'clock when I go to bed and shut those lights off. But let's talk about discipline on your end. Talk to me about your daily habits. What does your life look like that you do that makes you productive throughout the day as a leader?
Okay, well, it's very important to me that, this is going to sound so basic, I want to wake up well rested. my wife might consider me a morning person. I don't consider myself a morning person necessarily. It's not like, hey, I love to get up early, but I don't like to get up in the day has already taken control of my life. I like to get up and be in control of the day, and I want to wake up with vigor and mental energy and physical energy. So I wake up and I go through a morning routine, and it takes me about 2 hours. I mean, not everybody has the freedom currently to do that currently, but I take about 2 hours. I wake up, I go and I make me some, hot lemon water, drink another cup of water, make a cup of coffee, and I sit down and I go through my structured journal. I read, I pray, I think, and I listen. I go do some basic stretches, and nothing like, I wouldn't call it exercise, but just some basic stretches. And I walk on the treadmill. It just gets my blood flowing and it wakes my mind up. And wife cooks me breakfast, and we spend a few minutes, and then shower and head to work to meet with my leadership team.
So that's amazing, because I just want to stop you there. I follow almost the exact same practice of focusing on your mind, your body, and your relationships first before you even get your day started. On my end, I work out, I meditate, I stretch, spend time with the family, and then I get my day started. I can't even access anything on my phone until 8:30 in the morning. I think it's actually 8 o'clock in the morning once my screen time turns off. So nobody can touch me those first 2 hours of the day. I just wanted to just emphasize how impactful that little change in your life can be. Because before I did this, I can't imagine not doing it now. How many days a week do you do this, Jason? Is it every day?
Generally 7. My weekend routine might look a little bit different on Saturdays. A few years ago, and you can relate to this, I'm sure. I was praying. And I just felt God say, hey, I want to show you something. Get a piece of paper and write down my future self. And I began to write down, some categories of things, health, relationships, finances, business, all this stuff, right? And my future best self. And I wrote them down like they were presently true. What I did is every morning for a good long time, when I was walking on the treadmill, I would speak those things out loud to myself as affirmation. And I just do that piece once a week now. But I believe that we have so many inputs coming in our life that are negative, that are wrong, whether they're toxic, whatever. I wanted to take control of my internal narrative, and I wanted to shape my beliefs. And so I began speaking these things to myself. So it goes out my mouth, I speak it goes in my ears, and I think about it. And I did this every single day. And sometimes I'll just sit there, kind of like Napoleon Hillish, and I'll close my eyes, and I'll just envision me in a situation. And it doesn't take a whole long time, but I'll just envision myself as something that's not currently true, that it's actually true. And your mind really wants to work to make things true, and it's been proven. Like if you
Totally,
you're watching a scary movie, and all of a sudden, you really get goosebumps. Your mind, for a moment, believed, and your body reacted like it was really true, but you're just in a movie, right? So our mind wants to prove true what we believe, and I believe that's the way God made us. The Bible says, "So as a man thinks with himself, so he is." I don't know where you're at on that level. I'm just telling you where I'm at on my level, and
totally.
But I think it's a truth, regardless. Okay. That the way we think, we become what we think about. And so I wanted to proactively, I don't care what others say about me. This is who I believe God made me and my purpose in life. And this is who Jason is going to be. And my life began to change and formulate around those things that I was speaking to myself regularly. It sounds corny, and it sounds like, is someone going to hear me? Is someone going to hear me doing this? It sounds stupid, or like Stuart Smalley on SNL talking into the mirror. You think it's going to be something stupid like that, but I'm telling you, it's powerful.
It's a game changer. Every single high performance individual that I have talked to in my lifetime does almost the exact same thing. And you don't have to be a morning person to do these kind of things. You just have to go to bed earlier. That's all it is. So instead of going to bed at 9 and watching 2 hours of TV, get to bed by 7:30, 8, and that way you can wake up earlier and get your day started. And I think the important part is describing why it's so important to start your day with that and not end it. And for me, it's been always a few reasons. One, something always comes up during the day that prevents me from getting to those things in the afternoon. And then two, you're starting your day with a win. So no matter what happens during that day, no matter how bad your day gets, you're already on a really low level, right? So your job is to keep yourself from getting too high or too low. So if you can just keep yourself even keeled throughout the day, you're going to be a great leader. And I think anybody listening to this podcast, go develop some healthy daily habits. Treat your mind, your body, and your relationships right. Your business will thrive as a result of that. That's just fantastic stuff. What I do want to touch on, though, just kind of pivoting topics here, is contractor freedom. You just released a new podcast, and you have a new upcoming event in Dallas, a live event, Contractor Freedom Summit. Tell me more about that and how this all came from contractor prison and that mindset.
Okay, so I paid the dumb tax, the stupid tax, whatever. I paid the price of education. And I believe that the most valuable thing in this world is people and relationships. And I also believe in the concept of sowing and reaping and giving. I believe God's a God of abundance, and I can give it all away and he can replace it. So, I mean, I recently had a guy ask me, Jason, why are you spending time helping these other contractors? I mean, you could be spending your time on your business, making more money or whatever. And so I just told him, I said, look, my supply, I'm not in this for the money. And I need to do what I'm called to do. And I believe that God has an unlimited supply, and I can give it all away, and he can give it right back to me. So there's an abundance available for me. And when I give, honestly, when the teacher learns as much or more than the student, okay? But my vision for the summit, Austin, is to help contractors escape contractor prison. I'll present the concepts of, that I teach: personal growth, leadership, ethics in business, people skills, team building, simple, repeatable systems. I call those ABLE systems, all laid on a foundation of faith. That's what contractor freedom is all about. And I want to see business owners stop being slaves to their business, learn how to think like a business person and not like a technician, have an abundance mindset, and be able to live their life with purpose beyond just running their business. Hey, it's great to make money and get some things, but if you have no time to enjoy those things with the people you love, what good is that? What's the point, right? And so there's a lot of rich, miserable people, and there's a lot of people that don't have much money and they have plenty of joy in their life. But to me, I want time, money, freedom from my business. I also want health, relationships, things like that, spiritual life, those things as well. But in the business realm, time, money, and freedom. And my business and your business should be a tool to finance your life. And at the same time, now here's where some people get this messed up. All of a sudden, this is the tool of my business, and I can use up people. I can treat people like numbers. And then you end up treating people bad. And that's terrible. I believe what comes around goes around. And my job as an owner is to make that experience for them as good as possible. And when I water them and help them grow and succeed in the role that I have them in, and gosh, I spend a lot of time with people I work with. I have a chance to speak into their life, help them grow as a leader and in their relationships, and give them skills they can use at home as well. Now, everybody wins. We don't have to have a winner and a loser. My people don't have to lose so that I can win as a company owner. I think we can all win.
So good. And I think
so that's what it's about.
Really what you're preaching here is a mindset shift. And I think going back to the beginning of this whole podcast, and the reason why I wanted to have you on today was just to talk about how important mindset is. In my experience, and this is my own personal experience, I think it's 95% mindset, 5% skill. If you believe you can do it, if you have the determination, the empathy to lead a team, and the confidence you can do it, there's nothing you can't do. And I always like to say, if that guy can do it, I know I can do it too. And that's been always my big motivator. So for those of you listening in who might be struggling with contractor prison and free time, and understanding that time is your most precious commodity, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you cannot get your time back. Talk to Jason. And Jason, let's tell everybody, how can they go about looking more into contractor freedom and your upcoming summit?
Well, my personal online business card is jasonwphillips.bio, and I have all my links to everything on there. I've got resources, a few books I recommend. You can grab disc assessments there if you want. I mean, I'm not here to sell you anything today, but I've got a newsletter I publish. Have a YouTube channel. And of course, I've got the Contractor Freedom Summit. We have an online Facebook page and a private group that's for painting business owners only. You can connect with me there. I can easily shoot you the link to the registration page if you guys want to check out the summit. That would be great. I think it's gonna be life changing.
I agree,
and it's gonna be well worth the time. And I can tell, if you're a guy that follows Austin, he's definitely into investing in himself and his business for future growth, to build a bigger future for himself and for everybody. And yeah, it's an investment to take off, to pay money to be a part of something, to take off, to travel. But guess what? That's the way you learn. That's the way you polish. That's the way you hone. So I would welcome you guys joining us.
Totally agree. And Jason, I'm going to convince you to come to see Tony Robbins with me in November. He's in Dallas, Texas, so that's right up in your neck of the woods.
Right there. That's right there. Yeah.
So Jason, I wanted to thank you again for joining us today on this podcast. Is there any last words of wisdom that you would like to impart on those listening in, and based on everything that we've talked about today?
Your most valuable asset is your people, but it can also be your greatest liability if you don't lead them and make them productive for you. Make everybody win. You, me, we are in the people business.
So good. Guys, if you found some value in this conversation, please subscribe to Base Coat Marketing on YouTube. Like this video, share it on social media. Stay tuned for more, because we are just getting started. Jason, thank you again for joining us today, and thank you for all those listening in.
Thanks, Austin.
Cheers.